and a licensed counselor of 10 years turned to parenting coaching in this community setting. And I'm so grateful to have Karen with me today. She has been in our transformation program for about 6 weeks and experiencing some big shifts with her 5 and 3-year-old. So I thought, I want to hear from her. I want her to get to share that with others. So first of all, Karen, what were some of the struggles you were facing before you started?
So one of the biggest things we were struggling with was just epic meltdowns that were just so frustrating and basically making our lives miserable. Like our lives were ruled by meltdowns. And we were also struggling a lot with bedtime routines and with mornings and getting out of the house. So those were probably our 3 major struggles that we had before that. And the meltdowns was definitely the one that was like I've said before, like we just couldn't live our lives that way anymore. It was ruling our lives and making us all miserable. So.
And how is that affecting you and your marriage or just your sense of like yourself?
Well, obviously, like I definitely felt like I was failing as a parent, that I couldn't help my kid. And then I was worried for her too, my 5-year-old, just because she was having these epic meltdowns and I couldn't figure out why or what to do to help her. And then our evenings, after work and school were just absolutely miserable. Like we weren't having like any joy or fun. It was just like managing one meltdown to the other, walking on eggshells, like when's the next meltdown going to come, being afraid to like do much of anything to like avoid the upset. And so, yeah, we were just, like I said, we were just decided, we got to a point where we said, we just can't live like this anymore. It's so miserable. So.
And I guarantee there are people listening right now who can relate because I hear that from people that are in similar places and it just starts to control your life. And then you're so afraid of the meltdown that you're not setting any boundaries because you don't want to have to deal with that explosion, which then leads to just more explosions and
It's exhausting. Yeah. And it's like an ugly cycle too, because it's like you start over the next day thinking it'll be different. And then it's the same thing all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't just magically change. And she had gotten to 5. I imagine along the way, you thought maybe she'll outgrow this or, did you try other things to make it better?
We did, we tried different parenting books and things like that, and nothing really seemed to click or make a difference. We certainly tried lots of things because we knew that it wasn't right for her to be having these epic meltdowns, and she had just had them since she was born. She'd always been like, but then kind of seeing where other kids her age were at and kind of having a play date and then having to go sit in the car for 30 minutes to deal with a meltdown, or it was just kind of like, it wasn't working, and we didn't have the tools to help her. Mm-hmm. And that was the frustrating part. Like we wanted to help her, but we didn't know how.
Yeah. And so now you do. What are you noticing? What tools are, how are you noticing a difference and what do you think is making that difference?
So one of the biggest things is just the 2 biggest things that I think has been a shift for us is setting firm but kind boundaries and following through with those. And at first it was like you would set the boundary and then there would be an upset and you'd be like, okay, it's never mind. And now it's like we know that upset's going to come, but because we've been doing it, for 6 weeks, now we see that we set the boundary and there is an upset, but it's like a 2-minute upset or a 5-minute upset versus, a 30 to 45-minute upset. And I've even noticed that, like, I think that once your kids realize you're going to follow like once you set the boundaries, you're going to follow through, then it's like, okay, fine. You know, it's like not even a big deal. It's like, okay, I'll just go do my 1 minute reset on the stairs, you know, it's like, and then it's over.
They start to realize it's not worth their energy because it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. And they like, and I think also just like talking about what the boundary is and then what the consequence is going to be. So it's like they know ahead of time, if they do this, then this is going to be the result. And so it's not this unknown of like, maybe I'll get my way this time, or maybe I'll have a consequence and not knowing. So I think just the consistency of setting the boundaries and following through. And then just, I think all the units, and then the talking to other parents, is like we were struggling with sibling stuff. And so we could go onto the unit, we watched the unit about siblings, and then we could just like immediately implement that tool. Whereas before we had, it was like there's so many resources. And so to try to pin down one that worked for us, but now it's like, we know, okay, we're having this issue. We have a toolbox that we can go to. Even if it's not directly talking to you or the group calls, like we can go into the units and find one that's, and really like between all the units and all the videos, there's almost always something there that, fits into whatever struggle we're having. So that's the other nice part, is it's like, okay, we're having trouble with siblings. We can go into that unit and delve into that, you know, or we're having trouble with managing emotions. So we can go into that unit, or so just having that toolbox where we feel like, okay, we're having this problem. Let's find the tool that we need to, you know, help with that problem. Whereas before we just kind of felt like we were like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do, you know?
And it can be overwhelming. There's so much information out there. It sounds like once you knew you aligned with sustainable parenting, like that kind and firm approach, this is what I want, then you know you can just trust that advice and you don't have to like go searching everywhere.
Yeah, I think when we were looking, you know, when we decided we wanted to make a change, and I saw like, I think it was like one of the things on your website was like, how often, you know, how many times a day do you feel like a bad parent? How many times a day do you feel guilty? You know, and it was just like, yes, all of those things. I was like, this is speaking to me like directly. And like the tools have definitely, you know, been very specific and easy to implement like right away, which was something else that was like, okay, we can take something away today and implement it like 5 minutes from now. So it's also like very approachable, and it doesn't feel overwhelming, and you don't feel like you have to do all the tools at once. You just start building on the ones that are working for you and kind of go from there. And then the group calls are great because it's like a reminder, oh yeah, like I haven't been doing that thing. And so I need to like bring that back into the rotation kind of, or just whatever your kids are struggling at, you know, pulling that tool back into the rotation. So that's been great. And I think the other big thing has just been like we've shifted our mindset as parents, like, because I think before we thought like there's something wrong with our kid or we're terrible parents, and just the community of other parents too, and knowing that you're not the only one who's having those struggles, because you kind of feel isolated, and like you see other kids and other parents and you're like, why isn't our kid like that, and what are we doing wrong? And then you realize you're not doing anything wrong, like everyone is struggling. And so that's helped us in just like being like, this is normal, this is okay, you know, like we're not doing anything wrong, we just need to like, you know, set a new plan or set a new boundary or be flexible, and as far as, you know, deciding what our kids need or what our family needs. So that's been huge for us.
That exhale you just took, like that's what I keep seeing like progressively growing in you over the past few weeks, like from the tools you're using them, you're seeing change. And like you said, the community, I'm so glad that that's it encourages you when you see other people having the same struggles, but also having wins, and you get to like learn from both sides of it, right?
No, absolutely. And we get ideas, you know, from other parents, and we're like, oh yeah, we're having that same problem. And, you know, seeing what's working for other parents, and just like hearing them when you think your kids are like so ridiculous with their, you know, tantrums, and then you hear other families and they're, you know, it's like, that's equally as ridiculous. And you think, okay, this is just normal, and that's working for them. And, you know, being able to get ideas has been really great too. Just like when you open it up and you say, what, you know, what advice do other parents have? And I think that's been great for us. Like, oh yeah, we haven't tried that, or that's working for someone else. And just that, I think it's just like having someone kind of hold you accountable every week, saying like, okay, when you open it up with like, what are your wins and what are your struggles? And sometimes you forget about the wins when you're having a hard week. And it's like, there always are some small wins, even if they're not big ones. And so I think having the time to focus on the things that are going well and not just on the things that you're struggling with is also helpful, because you think, okay, we actually did have, you know, have some things go really well this week, but the, you know, the one thing you're struggling with is what tends to stand out, but it doesn't mean that other things aren't going well.
Totally. And that's such a shift. Like our day to day, our brain just defaults to the negative more so than the positive. And so that's one of the focuses of, or one of the reasons to invest in being in a community is like, I need something that will pull me from my default to get this train actually going in a better direction.
Exactly. And at first it was like hard to get on the calls at night, but now it's like, oh, you know, it's like, now I'm going to get to ask about this week. And it doesn't feel like it's hard anymore. It feels like it's like something that we look forward to doing, because we know that we're going to get to share our wins, and that we'll get a strategy that maybe we haven't tried, or a reminder of something that works, and get to kind of connect with other parents. So, which is something you don't get if you're trying to read a book, or, you know, you do like a online workshop. You don't have that like community, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. You're building some really great relationships that can continue.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think, in closing, is there anything else you want to share? And just kind of what feels most exciting that you're looking forward to now that you know you've got these tools in your tool belt and you've got this progress that you can see where it's going to go?
I think the most exciting thing is just I think the main thing is just having our whole family be able to like manage our emotions better. And my husband and I having that mindset shift where we're able to, you know, keep ourselves under control, because we know that it's normal, and we're just like, this is normal. We know that there's going to be an upset, but we know that it's going to be controllable, and it's not going to, it doesn't, I guess, just like the general takeaway is it doesn't feel out of control anymore. Whereas before it was like, we felt like our kids, like everything had just slipped away from us. Like we didn't have any control. And now even though it's not perfect and it's still hard, we still have hard days. We feel like we have more of the power now versus like our kids had all the power before.
Yeah.
And so that has been, I really like, honestly, just the mindset shift has been life-changing for us. It's like our lives are completely different now. And we're just really glad that we, you know, decided to do this. And thank you for providing the space for parents to come and get the help that they need. And, you know, and it's really not, you make it really easy to implement it, like very simple, like tools that you can take away. And I think that is really nice too, that you don't feel overwhelmed. You're like, okay, here's one thing I can try today. And then here's one thing I can try tomorrow, you know? And so that was a lot of things, but that was my overall I think the overall is just the mindset shift, and then just like the really easy tools that you can implement. So yeah, thank you. It's been awesome. We're like so thankful.
That's awesome. That just makes me so happy to know that your world has changed, your family has changed, your connection has changed, and you will carry that well past the time of being in the program. So I'm so glad, and it's my honor to work with you. Thank you so much for taking this time.